The World Economic Forum reports that per capita, Estonia is more wired than Italy, Belgium, and Spain. And Estonia has adopted one of Milton Friedman's most controversial ideas.
We were the first country introducing really this beautiful idea of the flat rate personal income tax. To be very frank, I didn't know that nobody has done it, but it worked. It worked exactly in the way how it was prognosed by Milton Friedman.
In Estonia today, everyone but the poor pays the same flat tax rate of 24%. No loopholes. 8 other countries in the area, including Russia, are following Estonia's lead. Despite Estonia's obvious prosperity, life is not easy for those who felt cared for under the old Soviet system.
This new situation has been very hard. Of course, it again is not the age what makes the difference. It is the attitude of the people.
Dmitry Gelikov has been an engineer at Elcotec for 3 years. He is one of nearly 3,000 employees. Dmitry, his wife Galina, and their daughter Christina are enjoying life in the new Estonia.
There are a lot of new buildings erecting. New roads are coming. Basically how all the life is changing. It's really interesting to see, actually.
It's more possibilities for our children also.
After generations of domination, Estonia is poised to catch up with the living standards of Western Europe, and they intend to do it in just 1 generation. The free market ideas at work in Estonia were first championed over 200 years ago by a Scottish professor. In his revolutionary book, Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith introduced the free market ideas that would drive the world's economy throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries. From his theories came stunning technological innovations and industrial progress. But the horror of the First World War left the world bitter, disillusioned, fearful of free markets, and drawn to the philosophy of government command and control of the economy, a philosophy long advocated by the famous British economist John Maynard Keynes.
There's no danger of a serious rise in the cost of living.
His ideas would dominate economics for the foreseeable future. Keynes said, "The central controls necessary to ensure full employment will, of course, involve a large extension of the traditional functions of government." Even so, in the American Midwest, in a place known for its intense intellectual atmosphere and tolerance of unconventional thinking, others were experimenting with new and different ideas. Here, at the University of Chicago, a derided minority of scholars was forging a link between Adam Smith and what they believed was a new economic science for the 20th century. Among them was Milton Friedman. In time, his name and the Chicago School of Economics would be intertwined. But that would come later. Brooklyn, New York, 1912. Milton Friedman is born to poor immigrant parents. Both had come here from Eastern Europe. Young Milton grows up above their dry goods store in Rahway, New Jersey, while his father also struggles as a jobber in New York, 20 miles away. And for a short time, his mother works in a New York sweatshop.
You're talking about an immigrant household whose emphasis is on how do we make a living. The concept of ideas and of intellectual activity and so on was not a live concept. It just didn't enter in.
At Rahway High School, he is a good student and a voracious reader. At 15, he is preparing to enter his senior year when his father suddenly dies of a heart attack. With the backing of his high school teachers and a scholarship, he goes on to Rutgers College in New Brunswick, New Jersey. To earn money for his education, he and a friend capitalize on the Rutgers tradition that freshmen are required to wear green ties.
We got the green ties from his father and went from door to door in the dormitory selling them. And that gave us the idea that we could do the same thing with books. So the next year, we arranged that spring for Barnes & Noble to come to New Brunswick and offer to buy secondhand books.
Milton and his friend make money, and the students pay less. Early benefits of a free market. 1 year into his studies, America and the world are shaken by the stock market crash of 1929. Black Thursday would evolve into the greatest depression in American history. Millions would lose their jobs, their homes, and their life savings. Half of the nation's banks would fail. By 1932, Milton is 19 years old. He has come to realize that economics is more than a class in college.
It's obvious that it was the state of the world in 32 that led me to go to Chicago. Here was a world in which you had unemployed people and unemployed machines, and obviously a rational situation. It was crazy. Why couldn't you put these people to work to run those machines, to produce those clothes that people so desperately needed? So the intellectual interest was in trying to explain that phenomenon.
The economics department at the university is one of the very best in America. The stars are Frank Knight and Jacob Viner. Milton is among a group of brilliant students who have been attracted to this vibrant intellectual atmosphere. Another is Paul Samuelson, a young man who, like Milton, would become a Nobel laureate and one of the most influential economists in America. Throughout their lives, he and Milton would disagree on many things, but remain good friends.
If one can run over, but the other one can't.
Today, Samuelson is retired, but at MIT in Cambridge, he still works with students.
Milton was born smart. It wasn't a question of competitiveness, but just the quickness of his repartee and his IQ and his fair-mindedness in argument.
I felt almost immediately at home. This seemed like where I was supposed to be. Suddenly in Chicago, in an atmosphere where you've got intense intellectual activity by people who are intellectually sophisticated, who have a much broader background than I did, as a matter of fact, and opened up to a new field. I enter economics. I take Jacob Viner's course, in which he makes me realize for the first time that there is such a thing as a coherent system.
Jacob Viner's class in economics would have a profound personal influence on Milton Friedman. Viner seated his students alphabetically. Next to Milton sat a young woman, also majoring in economics. 6 years later, Rose Director would become his life partner and co-author.
Look, he'd grown up, as I had, in a small town. He wasn't exposed to many of the things that a lot of other kids had been exposed to. And I guess that's one of the things that drew us together. We sort of came from the same background. And therefore, our ideas were pretty much the same. He was more intellectual than I was, but not too much.
Another powerful influence on both Milton and Rose during these years is the professor who would become their close friend. Frank Knight had an unfailing suspicion of government intervention. Milton and Rose would grow to embrace those ideas as their own. But the continuing misery of the Great Depression convinces Americans otherwise.